If you are looking to earn SHRM credits from today's talk, take a look at the code that's in the upper left-hand corner of your slide in front of you. And we're also going to briefly refer you to the code of conduct. I'll be sharing that in the Zoom group chat, in the group chat on the right-hand side of your page. And it's just there to hopefully ensure that today's experience and all of our virtual events are positive for everyone involved. Now, I'm really excited to introduce you to our speakers. Onawa Calvin has an extensive 18-year background in diversity, accessibility, and inclusion work. She is a yoga and wellness practitioner, and as a certified yoga teacher and diversity recruiter, Onawa has a passion for humans. She works to help orgs solve gaps in talent for targeted recruitment campaigns, organizational development, fair and inclusive candidate experiences and onboarding, as well as retention programs. Onawa believes that yoga has accessible depths of compassion and healing layers. They identify as a BIPOC queer lesbian woman, and they are a forever young mom of 2 adulting children. So welcome, Onawa. They will be joining conversation with our wonderful event moderator, Mariella Marie. If you sat through any of the other previous chats, you know that Mariella has a very long and absolutely staggering resume. She has shared the virtual stage with disruptive leaders like Deepak Chopra, Ra Goddess, and Catherine Zaleski, among many more. She is a Renaissance woman and social impact multimedia producer, and she spent a decade working with diverse technologists, independent artists, and divergent innovators across the globe to deepen their audience's emotional intelligence. So welcome to the stage, Onawa and Mariella. Take it away.
Yes, thank you so much, Meg. Thank you, Power to Fly, for hosting us today. And I know this is going to be a really, really mindful, thoughtful conversation. So I'll set up the stage and invite folks to just be present with us, stop multitasking, get your wits about you. Let's practice some emotional intelligence. I'm really excited to pass the mic actually to our guest speaker now. I know that Meg gave that beautiful introduction, but is there anything else, Onawa, that you want to share about yourself? Any fun facts before we get kicked off and roll into these awesome questions that folks have submitted previous to the chat?
Wow. So thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. I'm pretty sure you guys nailed the vast majority of it, but I definitely am a people alchemist. I wanted to add that it continues to travel with me. And I have put my recruiting hat away. So I am full-time in the yoga emotional wellness space, specifically holding those that are practitioners of that space. It's kind of like where I'm headed. So yeah, after 18 plus years of that, I really want to give this 100% of who I am.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations on, laying the hat down and being able to, pick up the wellness tool with both hands. Where are you based? I know we chit-chatted a bit before we went live here, but can you let our live callers know where you're based, why you decided to move there, and then how did you become interested in connecting people with wellness?
Sure. So currently in the capital of Virginia, so I'm in Richmond, Virginia. The original stewards of that is Powhatan. The Powhatan tribe. And I was in Old Town Alexandria, right outside of DC, needed some solitude, some more quiet, some more community, and recently moved to Richmond. Just love this area so much. There's a community refrigeration, food distribution, very community driven and oriented. So it was ideal for me, especially given what we all experienced and went through last year, what we were witness to. I actually was going to leave recruitment last year and was going to leave the US and start practicing in Italy. That didn't occur. I had to sit and dig in and continue to do the work. Came back, full circle here. I think for me, I have seen in my own journey and in my own inquiry is that there's a need for community. There's a need for connection. It is exactly what I've been doing for 18, 20 years, connecting individuals to their passion in a corporate world or nonprofit world to do what we know is this like systematic 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I think last year holistically and traumatically that changed for everybody. So for me, it's connecting people with self so that they can go out and do this work, be better humans, figure out what they need internally. I really focus on restorative yoga, meditation, a lot of stillness, which most of my friends and family and loved ones would be like, walk what? No, that's not possible. But you have to have balance, right? You have to be able to balance and really figure out, internally what's going on. I have a lot of mental health challenges as of, 2020, maybe 2016. So I think it was really, really important to add a tool to include my own spiritual practices and prayer and to have something that was tangible. There was that everybody could participate in. There was a space of non-judgment, which is what yoga has been for me tremendously.
So I would love for you to share more with our audience, just a little bit more about your story and the way that you see the world as, the way that you identify. So of course, you are coming from the States, so that's, one way of seeing the world, but then you also had an interest in going to another place in the world, which takes a lot of courage. I'm currently calling from Patagonia. I'm originally from California. And any moment I get, I love to encourage folks to, step outside of their comfort zone, think for themselves, be more connected to their emotional intelligence. But that takes a lot of courage. So do you have any, maybe the first step if someone is, thinking of career pivoting, or if they're in a really uncomfortable position based on how they identify in the workplace, whether they feel safe or not, whether they feel like they are being fulfilled or not, what is the first thing that someone in that position can do, knowing that they are looking to grow and develop more of their wellness?
Yeah, sure. Stacey Abrams said it best, just do it. There's this internal dialogue that you have with yourself. For me, it was panic attacks going into a team that I loved, working with a team that I love at the time, passionate about the work I was doing in recruitment, specifically in a very controversial industry. But then something turned. I got promoted. I was making six figures. It wasn't enough. It was not significant. It wasn't enough. And there are individuals that are currently in positions that are very similar to mine. I know the person that's in the roles that I was in, and they're thriving. But your purpose can change, and that's okay. I would say continue to sit with that inquiry. Continue to surround yourself, which I think is very, very critical. I think we started to do that going into the past election and the election before that. Start surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals that are navigating new spaces, and people that are encouraging you to continue to think through that feeling. Because at the end of the day, if it's there, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to step out and do it, or you're going to be forced out. So I think that's probably what has happened for me, for sure, and what I would recommend.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. I think that, if we could have just a little more of that contemplative time to just sit with ourselves, be connected with our purpose, and be okay to shift that purpose based on what's happening around us. But it's not as easy as it is saying. And I love that you're saying the first step is just to take a step and to go with it. But the way that, especially after this past year, we're moving more online these days. And of course, one of the main topics of discussion during the summit has been, at least in some of the interviews that I've been hosting, is a lack of safe space for queerness in the digital space. So let's say that, we have to be isolated given the circumstances. How do we find our purpose, or how do we connect with ourselves and make sure that we are developing our emotional intelligence, developing our wellness, but we can't have that that component that we need as Homo sapiens, and that we are essentially having to figure out how to navigate. Can you speak just to how the digital space can help, and maybe some things that we need to just be on the lookout for, some flags to stay away from, let's say? Sure.
So for me last year, one of the reasons why I was leaving is because I was working from home. It was not for me. I didn't want that. And then to be safe and to do what I needed to do, what we all were doing, I needed to self-isolate. I needed to work from home. Some of the resources that I found extremely helpful was meditation, was sitting and listening to those things that that kept pushing me away from myself and away from what I knew, away from family, away from friends. I did need therapy. I did need to speak to a psychiatrist. I did need to onboard medication, which has changed and altered over time, and that's okay. Some people don't align with that. Some people don't need that. My son is doing really good work in the medical marijuana space legally in Maryland, and he's thriving. So that's definitely something, absolutely, hands down, individuals need to consider and talk with your professionals about. I can't specifically speak to that for everybody, but for me, it's been phenomenal. And talking, finding individuals online. Power to Fly has really good connections. For me, meditation was critical. Insight Timer was amazing. There are a lot of LGBTQIA plus individuals that are on Insight Timer. It's free. It's free. It's free. There is community-based organizations that you can find on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, that will help you get connected to the right individuals. Reminding yourself regularly, I had to do it on a regular basis. This was going to be a moment. We were going to get past this. You were going to be okay. But to feel what you're feeling, like it's relevant, it's essential. Like I have anxiety or I have a panic attack because of something. And it's hard work and it doesn't go away. It comes back. But yoga and meditation and the physical asana of yoga, because meditation, pranayama, breath work, breathing, we always say, just breathe. It is the one word that we cannot get away from since last year, since the death of George Floyd. This pandemic itself was taking the breath of individuals. It's something that you have to consistently contemplate and work through. And then as a BIPOC queer woman who has children who are out there in this world, it's okay to step away. It's okay to step away from the hard work. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay to rest. It's okay to sleep. It's okay to eat, and then go back out and do what you can. Do your very best. But there are a lot of resources out there, especially for individuals that are isolated, and honestly, it's hard to get back out there. It's very difficult for some people to get back out there. Full transparency, my psychiatrist thought I was agoraphobic. It was hard to walk my dog right outside of DC. January 6th of last year was very, very hard. There was red everywhere. It was a difficult time, but I knew I needed to do the work, and I knew I needed to take myself out of that space and create a space that was safe. Sometimes that's music, a lovely podcast. Sometimes it's silence. You may hear the rain now. Sometimes it's rain. Sometimes it's sunshine. Sometimes you do need to buy that ticket and get out of the U.S. And to your point, I got my certification in Nosara, Costa Rica, and it was transformative. I mean, other than insightful, and I have a yogi family that I absolutely love and can call on anytime. The non-judgment that comes with yoga and the community in the right space with the right mentors and teachers and people, it's one of those things that it's just elevating. And then you start to look at things very differently. The people that don't live in the USA, the US is kind of a box. You just think of things one way. There's some accuracy to that. And you get into this international space and you're now saying, I'm going to take a holiday, and it's not, just the weekend. It's not tacked to a recognized holiday that you have with an organization. So I think it's important to not just do one thing and to ask for help. Even if you think you're bothering somebody, you're not. Ask for the help that you need. I'm always available, you know. There are many, many people in the yoga community and in the therapeutic community and the wellness space that are available. So I would encourage you to simply ask for help and for resources.
Thank you so much for that thorough response. I love that you're highlighting, you know, the transparency and the realness of what's going on, right? So we have the pandemic that's happening. We have all these hate crimes that continue to happen. And literally, you know, you don't want to go outside of your house. You don't feel safe depending on, you know, where you come from and what your story is. And unfortunately, you know, that is true for a lot of people, for too many people. And so I love that you're highlighting, you know, the power of breath and the importance of breath in this context, especially how, and I'm going to put you on the spot just for now, because I know you have so much knowledge to share, but can you walk us through like a quick breath work, you know, reflection or meditation that people can kind of just put in their toolbox and know if they feel afraid to walk outside, or if they feel afraid to, you know, leave their job or, you know, pivot, and to just give themselves some of their own power back?
Oh, yes. No, thank you for putting me on the spot. My teachers would be super impressed and grateful. So often it's not safe for individuals to close your eyes. So wherever you are, grounding down. So you want to connect with the ground. You can lower your eyes or soft gaze. You can even find something that is comforting to you in the space that you're in. And simply take a moment. Take a moment to feel what your body is telling you. Releasing that breath, drawing in through the nose, filling the belly, and simply releasing. Drawing again in through the nose at your own pace and releasing. Drawing again in through the nose, holding for just a moment, recognizing it will be okay, that you are safe in this particular space, and releasing. Pulling the shoulders up to the ears, squeezing the hands and the fists, the toes, all of that may not be serving you. Rolling the shoulders back and releasing fingers and the hands and the toes. Placing the hands on your thighs. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? Taking a moment. And when you feel ready, your eyes will close, gently blinking them open, coming back to this safe space.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking that invitation to guide us through a quick reminder of connecting with our, you know, connecting with gravity, connecting with our breath. I know that lots of folks are going through some tough times right now. A lot of people are unable to water their purpose, let's say, and allow themselves to blossom because, you know, we live in a world that is, you know, about that dollar bill. We can't pay the rent, and we got to suck it up, you know. And I love also that in the beginning you spoke about, let's go to therapy, let's find other ways to, you know, release and connect with ourselves more. So this question that someone has submitted before this conversation speaks about work-life integration. So specifically as things are going virtually now in the world during this time, what are some ways that we can practice work-life integration to avoid burnout?
Sure. So I probably suffered burnout as a recruiting manager a number of times. I did have to take a break. I was raising young children, and it just wasn't working. I was a single mom. One of the things that you have to be mindful of is that work, there's a time limit. Legally, there's a time limit. Like if you put in 8 hours or 12 hours or 10 hours, that's what you put in. And I would stress highly to put it away. Tuck it in, put it away, turn it off. And it's very difficult to do if you're working from home and that's not going to change for you. Or if you're going back out into the workforce, or you're trying to go back out into the workforce and obtain work. You need to just leave work there. Even for me, who's like integrating my whole being with my work, it will be my work, but I will have to leave it. And will have to put my phone down. I tell my partner now, I'm sorry, I'll be on my phone for like an hour to check, my Linktree links to make sure they're working, or a meetup, group that I'm leading a yoga class through. And I give myself that time and I communicate that. So you have to have balance. The other thing that I absolutely do, and my partner's son asked me, is I have lots of reminders. Go eat, go hydrate, take a breath. Thank God I have a dog, or I probably would never leave the house, sticky notes. But you have to be able to hear that something's not working, or you're doing too much. And it's not going to be the same trick or the same tool every single day. It won't always be that. Chana Nichols is an astrologer who identifies as queer as well. And one of the things that Chana has done is created this app that constantly reminds us and gives us little nudges based on our astrology. If you are a believer of your birthday, like if you celebrate your birthday, recognize like the time you were born, then you believe in astrology, or at least you have a recollection, an alignment with astrology. But what it does is it tells us on this particular day, this is where your energy may be. This is what may be occurring for you. So simply be mindful of it, so that you can better equip yourself with, like, I know when I go to work today, I probably should just do what I can to get through the day, or hydrate, or stay on this side of the food source, or get more sleep, because sleep is something we don't do. We don't do enough of that. But I would definitely say leave work with work. Don't wrap it in, don't take it in. It's easy to say, I know, because there's a pressure. There is definitely an oppression sometimes, especially as a woman of color, as a queer woman of color. There was this, underlining requirement that I had to work slightly harder. That wasn't always stated, but it was understood. And that was to my own detriment. So I would just simply remind you that you're a human, you're a person, and the only way you can be and bring your whole self into any particular space is to have some balance and keep yourself healthy, and healing. Continue to work on that as well.
Absolutely. And I would love to hear you speak a little more about resiliency and belonging. I mean, just the fact that you decided, you had your plans to go to Italy, that couldn't happen. You decided to move to another place. You are figuring out where you belong, and also, nurturing the resiliency within you by, leaving a certain kind of work that didn't fit your purpose, that didn't fill you up. And now you're doing your own thing, which I can see it shining from your face, and the way that you're speaking about the work that you do, it clearly is doing you some good. So can you just speak a little bit to, how resiliency and the sense of belonging is necessary, and what we can do to foster that in our lives?
Sure. And I don't want to go into that without absolutely saying that, we have bills, and some of us are providing for our parents, or we have children, and we're still in a pandemic, a global pandemic, and that has shifted for many people, financial resources. And sometimes that's minimal. And I've come from a place of like operating by faith. I have gone without food, but I was able to then get food. You know, I believe that collectively, which is one of the work that I want to do and have been doing, that as part of community, we can get through things together, but it has to be together. We have to collectively, as community, just do it. I mean, we probably wanted to see people we didn't want to see last year, you know, because we know what that human connection does for us, even us introverts. Although I'm not really an introvert, I think as of last year, I sort of started to become an introvert, right, as a form of protection. But the resiliency for me has been my children. I think it dawned on me that I was raising adults and they were watching me, but watching me as an adult, like not just their mother. And I was like, oh, I got to get it together. You know, it's okay that I stay in the bed and that I, you know, have bad days. But I can't put this anxiety and stress on them. They have enough. They have anxiety and stress that I probably couldn't even contemplate. On a personal note, I thought it was a phenomenal idea for my son, who bought a car all on his own, deposit saved. I was so proud. I thought it would be, May of last year, I thought it would be a really good idea to get him a dash cam for his birthday. And I told a friend of mine, and, you know, just thinking that this was a great idea, and she broke down in tears because this was our reality. And I started to recognize that I needed to do better because there were these individuals that were looking up to me and looking at me, and still using me as their mom, you know, needing me as their mother, or often wouldn't, you know, talk to me as often because, you know, it was so stressful. Things were so stressful and they just knew. So I think primarily for me, it was, you know, I was driven by the need for everything I was seeing. I think there's so much work for all of us to do, but I needed to just feel better. I needed to engage my community. I couldn't stay inside forever. I needed to continue this process that I started in 2018, 2019 to leave a career that had more than just nudged me out of it. But it was time to repurpose, you know? Yeah.
And just because, at least in the global north, because I'm in the global south, and in Argentina, we celebrate Pride at the end of the year. So I get to celebrate it twice, or we can all celebrate it twice. Why not? And every day really is
Right,
Pride.
exactly.
So what am I even saying? I love that you are, you know, taking time to remind us of the importance of wellness, and especially in the queer community, because, you know, of the lack of safe spaces in the physical world and in the digital space. Is there any piece of advice you would give to yourself? You're speaking about your children now and just the younger generation and how they're looking up to folks like us and how we can be more mindful in, you know, how we're being responsible or not. Can you give yourself, or would you give yourself any advice, your younger self, as a queer person today, you know, never have not dreaming that a pandemic would come, but knowing that, you know,
Right.
at some point we would need to, you know, come together and still show pride for who we are, still be proud about who we are in this crazy, crazy, crazy world. Is there any piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
I always find that question, I saw that question kind of come through as like a possible question you might throw at me. And I always come from that state. It's so hard because I have learned that, like, I always operated from a place of no regret. Like, I don't regret things. They are lessons, and maybe I wouldn't do them again, but maybe, I mean, since it's not an option, I probably shouldn't contemplate it. I would say, though, that I believe everything that happens is part of the journey, which does sound kind of woo-woo, but it's true. It's kind of, you know, it's like, if I hadn't have gone this direction, would I still be over here? Would this still have occurred? And I had my children very young. And then I came out about 13 years ago now. You know, I feel like I probably would tell myself to embrace my ancestors. Embrace your ancestors. I mean, you cannot pick your family. You can't pick that legacy, but it is a part of you, and there is a story behind it. My mom is white. My dad, his family is Jamaican and Native American. And there was a story. There was a love story. People came together and they created these humans. And we're here, whether we are accepted by them, cherished, loved, respected by them. They are your legacy, and there is a story. And it's up to us now and generations after us to continue to tap into that. And my daughter taught me that. My daughter taught me that these ancestors are with you, these spirits are with you, people are with you, and they're working for you and with you, not against you. So, yeah.
Beautifully said. I always say that I am my ancestors' wildest dream because, honey,
Yeah.
Please believe we got a lot of work to do, but they did not have, the advanced technology and just the safer spaces that we have today. So thank you so much for sharing knowledge with us today. How can we support the work that you do? I know we have to wrap up this conversation, but where can we go to support the work that you do and continue this conversation offline?
Yeah, I'm still on LinkedIn. No more recruiting stuff is on there. It's all wellness and yoga, but all part of that connection process. So it's Onawa Calvin, and then Instagram is alchemist.I. So yes, I'm there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. And thank you for that breathwork meditation. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Meg, I'm going to pass the mic back to you. Yes, just breathe.